She puts all her organs back into the cavity in her stomach. Her head was hanging on her back. So this girl, holding her intestines in, picks up her head. Alison wrote a book, and the name of the book, I Have Life. Nobody shows that better than Mary Vincent. She was only 15 years old. He brutally essays her, and he brings that axe down and chops her arm right off. But this little 15-year-old is not finished living. This naked girl, full of blood, no arms, waving these stumps around to try to get the Scotch stopped. Alison Buerta, a very inspirational, strong woman, a survivor, was 27 years old, and this was in 1994, so it was long ago, long before cell phones, living her best life, very independent, living on her own, living in her own apartment, working her job. She finished school, she went to university, she did her thing, she's got a good job, she's got a good circle of friends. So it was the 18th of December 1994, spent the day at the beach with her friends. This is what we do on a Sunday in South Africa in summertime. We spent the day on the beach with friends and family. After the beach, they went to one of the friends' houses, had some dinner. After dinner, drove to her apartment in Port Elizabeth, and safe neighbourhood, great place to stay. She had a good day, and she was now going to get ready for the next week of work. So she gets out of the car, opens the back door to get her laundry out that she had done that morning. But as she's doing that, out of nowhere comes this monster Franski toy, sticks a knife to her throat and says, "If you move, you die." Anyone's nightmare, because you don't know what you're up against. You don't know, is he alone? He can slice your throat at any moment. So she complies. She's in shock. So he forces her into the passenger seat to climb over into the driver's seat, and he gets in the passenger seat. His friend, Chils Kruger, then gets in the back seat, and they tell her to drive. So she drives. Frightening. This is frightening. You don't even have time to process this, to think. Your mind is racing, your adrenaline is up. I can't even imagine this scenario. It's insane. Now in South Africa, especially the coastal towns, there's a lot of jungle. There's mountains, there's valleys, there's forests, there's a lot of remote and desolate places where monsters like this can literally take you to do whatever they want to, and nobody would hear you scream. Now these animals, on the drive, she's driving now out of town to one of these desolate places, tell her exactly what they're going to do to her, the horrific things that they're going to do to her. So she's thinking, I will be strong, I will endure, let them do what they want to do, and then when they finish, they're going to leave, and I can go to a hospital, get fixed up, I can go home, I can pick up my life and recover from this. So they stop at this remote place where there's nothing, pull her out the car, rip off her clothes, and they start to essay her in every imaginable, gruesome way you can imagine. The brutality was insane, inflicting fear, pain, and trauma on another person that gets them off. So this is what they do. She endures the whole time just thinking, I'll make it through. They're going to finish, and they're going to leave, and I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to go home. She's 27, she's got her whole life. So she endures. Eventually, when they're done, the sidekick, Chils Kruger, tries to strangle her, but it doesn't work. So then Francis Toye, the leader of the pack, says she has to die. As he says this, he pulls that big knife out again. And this is where it just escalates to a whole new level of brutality. So now Francis Toye has this knife out. So straight away, he's now, she has to die. He starts slashing at her throat so violently that he almost decapitates her. He severs her windpipe and her trachea. Okay? And she's struggling to breathe because her air pump is exposed. But that's not enough. So they stab her in the stomach 36 times. Okay? 36 times. By doing so, they completely disembowel her. Okay, now disembowelment is where all your insides, your organs are outside, your intestines, your organs are now outside. She's in excruciating pain. At this point, she's thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. There's no getting out of this, okay? I can barely breathe. And my insides are out because she knows what's happening. She's awake and conscious for this whole thing. Okay? So when they're done, they throw her clothes next to her out of the car, and they leave, leaving this poor 27-year-old Alison Bush are just laying there in the dirt, covered in blood and who knows what. It's unthinkable. So France du Toit, she's clinging to the hope that she's going to survive and get out of this. France du Toit gave her a fake name and said his name was Clinton or something. Now while Alison is laying there looking up at the stars, okay, realizing that she might not make it, thinking that she's possibly not going to make it, but she realizes as well that while they were killing her and thinking that she's going to die, they started referring to each other in their real names, France and Tears. Okay. So with the little bit of strength she has, she writes in the sand. She writes their names in the sand, and she writes heartbreakingly, "I love Mom," so that if she dies and she will be found, then they can catch these guys so that they can't do this to another person. So she's now laying there thinking, what do I do? Okay. So she remembers that they threw her clothes on. She reaches out for the clothes. She finds her shirt. With her shirt, she puts all her organs back into the cavity in her stomach. Okay, because without it, she can't go anywhere. So she puts it back in her stomach. With that back in her stomach, she tries to now get up on her knees so that she can hold it in with a shirt and try to walk to the road. But as she gets on her knees, it's pitch black and she can't see, and she's thinking, what's wrong? Why can't I see suddenly? So she thinks there's something on her eyes, and she feels for her eyes. But as she does this, there's no head. She does not feel her head. She feels her throat. So her head, she was, like I said, almost decapitated. So her head was hanging on her back. So this girl, holding her intestines in, reaches back, picks up her head so that she can see where she's going. So now, my God, imagine, you can't imagine it, you cannot. But she realized that at some point she stopped feeling pain. Okay, I'm sure it's shock, trauma and adrenaline, because she wasn't feeling pain. But she had this survival instinct that I have to make it, I have to get out of here, I have to catch these guys, I want to live. So on her knees, holding her head and holding her intestines, she crawls on her knees to where the road is. Okay, hours. She gets to the road. She makes it to the road. Can you believe it? So as she finally makes it to the road, she just collapses. Now you can imagine the sight of this girl laying there, almost decapitated. Her intestines all over, blood and mud and sand, and it's a horrible, horrible sight. You can just imagine. So she sees headlights coming. Oh wow, she's got this will to survive, okay, with these catastrophic injuries, okay. She's fighting to survive, this girl. The first car comes past, and you know what? They just drive right past. They just drive right past her. So anyway, she actually said later in interviews that she understood why they drove past, because it must have been a horrible sight seeing her there. I don't understand it. I don't, okay? Because I don't care. Look, in South Africa, there's a lot of these things that happen when people pack things in the road or somebody pretends to be injured so that you'll stop. But most people in South Africa are armed, okay? And even if you're not armed, if you see, you can see this girl's intestines are hanging outside. Clearly she is not faking it. Something's wrong. She needs help. Stop. That person's still around. May that haunt you for the rest of your life. She needed help. You should stop. Anyway, so the next car comes past, drives just past her, slams on brakes, and realizes, hey, something's wrong here. A car full of students. So they jump out. Tian Illard, a veterinary student, gets to her first and sees, oh my God, this girl is dying. Okay, so he tells the others, now there's no cell phones, so he tells them, drive off, go get an ambulance, go find a phone, call first responders. Okay. And he stays with her, and by squeezing her hand and keeping her awake, because he knows if she falls asleep, she'll go unconscious and she will never wake up. Because it's very important to keep someone awake in that situation. So he just keeps speaking to her, and she knew. She says when she saw his face, and she just knew this is help. This is someone who cares. Somebody's going to take care of me now. It's unthinkable. But he keeps her awake. The ambulance, an hour and a half. 1 hour and 30 minutes. Okay, this is South Africa. Little side note about South Africa. Now, in America, you've got 911. You dial 911 straight away. They want to know, what is your emergency? Okay, do you need fire? Do you need police? Do you need ambulance? What do you need? Okay. In the UK, 999, same thing. In Dubai, 999. Every country. Okay, that's it. South Africa, you dial this number 10111. Okay. When someone answers, well, first it's going to ring for hours, and it's going to time out, and it's going to time out, and then eventually somebody's going to answer hello, and then when you start speaking, please hold, before you can say anything. Then they're going to cut you off, they're going to play music, and you just cut you off 3-4 times. Eventually, when you speak to them, hello, you say, I need an ambulance, I'm dying, okay? I will transfer you. Then they transfer you, I don't have to check you, okay? You don't phone the emergency in South Africa, you deal with it yourself. So, hour and a half, ambulance arrives, finally. So, the medical staff clearly shocked that Alison is still alive, and obviously it was years and years and many hours of reconstructive surgery that this girl had to undergo to just get everything back in place, because everything was out of place, and she would have lifelong consequences of this, okay? But she was able, because while they had stabbed her, this is why I said, remember he gave her a false name, Clinton. While this France and Tins thought that she was dying, they started referring to each other in their real names. Okay, so she knew this, so she could tell the police, this is what they look like, these are their names, and they were quickly apprehended. Okay. So the court case comes, okay. Alison's still in hospital, obviously, because they were caught very fast. So the doctors are saying to her, you cannot go to court. And she, I'm going to court. I am taking these guys down. They're getting locked up. They're not doing this to any other girl. How strong. Such a woman. Oh my gosh. So she goes to court. In court, she takes the stand and she tells the jury everything that they had done to her. All these gruesome things. Okay? And the jury could see, I mean, these guys are monsters. They obviously claim to have demons telling him, they always try that, okay? We all have demons, but hey, we don't listen to them. Which voice are you listening to? Okay, so yeah, the jury saw right through them, and they were both sentenced to life in prison. And now you think, great, end of the story. Hell no, this is South Africa. This is South Africa, get ready, brace yourself for this. So remember, this is 1995, this didn't happen in December 1994. So in 95, these guys both got life sentences. But anyway, thinking these guys are in jail forever. So in February, listen to this, February 2022, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola, sends recommendations to the National Council of Correctional Services, Judge Brian Mashile, and he recommends that these two guys get released on parole. And they do. They do. Okay, they release them. For 2 years, they're out there, causing havoc. Okay? But then in February 2024, this is last year, the newly sworn in Minister of Correctional Services, Peter Groenewald, sees this and he's like, what the? Why are these guys up? These guys cannot be out. These guys need to be in jail. Okay, so he revokes their parole, they rearrest them, put them back in jail. Now, let me explain to you the twisted side of this, okay? The excuse that the Correctional Services Legal Department provided for suggesting that they revoke was that Alison, the one they had brutally sexually assaulted and stabbed, half decapitated, you know the story. She declined to meet with her attackers in the Victim Offenders Dialogue Program. There's a program like that. So basically, she said, I don't want to play with them. I don't want to go visit them. And because she declined, they got released. So the state is expecting you, as a victim, this person who endured all of this, to go to the victim attacker dialogue program and baby these guys, sit and chit chat with them to make them better people, to understand why they What? Good for you, Alison. You don't need to speak to them. You don't ever need to speak to them. You don't need to pee on them if they're on fire. These are animals. This program, I don't know if it still exists today in any country, but make it go away. Make it go away, because no. Then they got life, so they're still in prison and they will never come out. I'm all for forgiveness, okay? I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus and heaven and hell and all the good stuff. But just because you forgive someone does not mean you forget about it. Maybe they can change. Maybe they meant to do good stuff. Maybe God's working on them. But they must do the good stuff from prison. Let them do their good work in prison. Alison, oh my gosh, what a woman, what a queen, what a hero. Alison has spent her life, okay, she's got 2 children, she's married, she spent her life becoming a huge advocate for victims, okay? She's turning victims into survivors, okay? And this is something I wish everybody could understand. If you're living and breathing and talking after something like this, you're not a victim, you're a survivor, okay? This girl is an absolute hero. The strength and courage that she showed is on another level. I'd like to think that, I wish I could say that if something like that happened to me, I would show the same courage and resilience that she did. But I doubt. She wrote a book. Alison wrote a book, and the name of the book is so profound. I have life. I have life. We don't always realize that we have life. You have life. You've been given life. What are you doing with your life? You know what I mean? She's doing everything she can to make everybody else's life better. After the horrible things she had to endure. She also, there's a documentary, I think it's on Amazon. I suggest everybody goes and watches it, about her story, because her story is one in a million, okay, that she survived, and the strength and courage she showed. It's amazing. But just the cover of her book, I Have Life, says so much. Okay, so I would strongly suggest you go and watch that, and big up, Alison. I cannot believe you did what you did, okay, and you survived that. I respect you. I respect you more than I respect most people that I have ever met in my life. So, yes, so that is it. Nobody shows that better than Mary Vincent. She was only 15 years old. He brutally SAs her, and he brings that axe down and chops her arm right off. But this little 15-year-old is not finished living. This naked girl, full of blood, no arms, waving these stumps around to try to get the Scotch stopped. No matter how dark it is, there's hope. There's always hope, and nobody shows that better than Mary Vincent. She was only 15 years old at the time of this incident. This was in the 80s, okay, so it was long ago. I mean, this is when hitchhiking was fine and things were done differently. There was no stranger danger yet. So she grew up in Northern California. She was one of 7 children. Her very tumultuous household, not a good upbringing. She couldn't cope with all of this, and the parents were getting divorced, and it was just too much for her. So she decided to run away and go to her grandfather in Southern California. She decided to hitchhike, as we do. Don't hitchhike. She's standing on the side of the road the whole day with her signboard. She's going to Southern Cali, to her grandfather. And with her, there are 2 other people also standing hitchhiking. They're also going to Southern California. So now it's getting later, and eventually this big blue van pulls up. Okay, now van, red flag. Where I'm from, van, red flag. Okay, when I see a van, my stomach turns. So her and these other 2 people go up to this van, and the guy says, yeah, he'll take Mary. And they look into the van, and they see that the van is completely empty. There's more than enough space to load 10 people in. But he says, no, he's only taking Mary. So Mary says, yes, she's going, because she doesn't want to stay there and sleep on the side of the road for the night. And the other 2 tell her, don't do this, something's not right. But Mary, desperate to get to her grandfather, she gets it. So the man in the blue van is Lawrence Singleton. This is a character. An older man, okay? And you can look at, if you look at some of his pictures, you'd think, yeah, he probably reminded her of her grandfather or an older person. And other pictures you look at him and you can just see the evil in his face. Now Mary was, when she got into the car, she said the car smelled like cigarette smoke and sweat, and it was not a clean bang, okay, let's put it that way. It didn't smell homely like a grandparent. But he seemed nice enough, this man, and he was going to take her to her grandfather. So she actually got quite comfortable enough that she ended up falling asleep, because remember, she was tired. She'd been standing in the road the whole day, okay. So she fell asleep. When she woke up and she looked at the signboards, she saw, but something's wrong. So she said to him, where are we going? Because she could see from the signposts that they're going in the wrong direction. So he just turns around and says to her, it's a shortcut, big red flag, but too late now. So in her mind, she's thinking, okay, something's not right. I don't know where we're going, but something's not right, so I might need to run. And in that moment, she looks down and she sees her shoelace has come undone. So he changes at that time, when she starts asking where they're going. He changes, his whole demeanor changes, and he suddenly becomes this very aggressive person. Veers off the road into this sand road on this isolated spot. He stops. So as they stop, she opens her door and she puts her foot up to tie her shoelace, because she's thinking, I'm going to have to run now. But before she could run, Lawrence Singleton pulls out a hammer and smacks her on the back of the head. And this is where her nightmare begins. So I can't even imagine that. For that whole day, right through the night, to the next day, he brutally essays her. He tortures her, he essays her. But she's thinking, let me just make it through this. Eventually he's going to let me go and I can go to my grandfather. Now this must be very traumatic. Remember, she is 15, okay? 15, she's a child. But she's thinking she'll make it through. So the next morning, well, the next day, now this has been carrying on the whole night. This old man can't get enough. He pulls her out the back of the van, throws her on the floor, and now the whole time she's screaming, let me go, let me go. And he says to her, you want me to let you go? I'll let you go. And he takes a hatchet, an axe, from his toolbox. And as she sees this, she's laying on the ground. She gets up and she's now sitting, and she grabs onto his arm with her left hand. And he brings that axe down and chops her arm right off. She doesn't realize this, but she falls back. So as she's falling back, she's thinking, why am I falling back? I'm holding on to him. And she looks down and she sees her arm has been cut clean off, okay? And the other part, the front part of her arm, is still holding on to him. So now she's screaming and crying and begging and laying there bleeding, losing a lot of blood. With this, he decides, no, he's going to cut her other arm off as well. He takes the axe, but now she's wiggling and trying to get away, okay? And he starts hacking at her right arm as well, which takes quite a few blows to get it off, because she's not still for this one. The first one she didn't expect. The second one, she saw it coming. So he hit her many times with this axe to sever the arm. Now she's laying there, no arms, and as she looks back at him, he's walking back to his van, but he's kind of shaking, and she's trying to see what is he shaking, and he's literally trying to flick her left arm that is still gripping him. He's trying to flick that off. So he puts his hatchet back in his toolbox, and he drags her to a nearby cliff, throws her over the cliff, 30 feet. She falls down. She can't even try and stop herself because she doesn't even have arms. She falls 30 feet down and breaks 4 ribs. The torture, as if the previous night was not enough, there it goes again. So he now leaves her for dead down at the bottom of this cliff. She's not dead, okay? She's in excruciating pain, bleeding out, knowing she's not going to survive, not knowing how she's going to get out of here. But this little 15-year-old is not finished living, okay? And this is where I honestly believe there's divine intervention and there's higher power. Whether you believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and I believe he gave her the strength, okay? Because he was not done with her. She was not finished. She knows she's got to stop the bleeding. Now it's muddy outside. So she pushes those stumps into the mud and fills the gaping wounds with mud to try and stop the bleeding. At 15, okay, at 15, with her no arms, 4 broken ribs, she climbs back up this cliff, this 30-foot cliff. By the time she gets to the top of the cliff, Because I remember she doesn't have hands to pull herself up. This is insane. And she's bleeding and she's in pain and she's just been through a terrible ordeal. The trauma is insane. So she climbs up. By the time it gets dark, she reaches the top of the cliff. She walks to the road. She gets to the road and now she's waiting for a car to come past. She sees headlights coming. Okay, and she's like, oh, thank God somebody's going to help me. Now, picture this naked girl, full of blood, no arms, waving these stumps around to try to get this car to stop. The first car was a sports car, and when they saw her, they sped off. They did not stop. Now, I don't care who you are. If there's a naked little girl, a 15-year-old, naked, full of blood and mud, and she's got no arms, and she's clearly in distress, she needs help. You stop your ass. For once in your life, you don't think about yourself and you stop. But anyway, that's my opinion. May the person in his sports car who didn't stop dream about this night every day of his life. And yes, I mean that. So then the next car comes. A couple on honeymoon, they were actually lost and they saw her. And the minute they saw her, they said, oh, this girl needs help. Okay, so they stop. They stop, they load her in the car and they drive to the nearest phone, because this is the 80s, okay? There's no, well, not even the 80s, it was the 70s. There's no cell phones, so they drive to the nearest phone, 911, the emergency services come. They had to airlift her out because she had lost so much blood that she was dying, okay? She was bleeding out. They airlifted her, took her to the hospital and started working on her. Now the physical scars are lifelong, clearly, because they couldn't even try to put the arms back because they didn't have the arms to start off with, and it had been too long. Okay, they couldn't. They had to fix that. Her ribs were broken, but the emotional trauma, the emotional scars, the PTSD that she had to deal with for the rest of her life is insane. Okay, it's something. It's unfathomable. You cannot imagine it. Even if you try, you can't. So, I mean, you see people today, what is wrong with us? You see a girl in the office break her nail and she's got to take a day off. This girl is climbing a 50-foot ledge with no arms. Okay, really, we need to look at ourselves and think, hey, maybe my life is not so bad. Anyway, so she knew who this was, okay, because she saw him. She knew his bag. So they arrested him. In 1979 was his trial, okay. She took the stand in his trial and she told the whole story. He denied it. Oh, wait for this. Oh my God, just get this. He denied it. This Lawrence Singleton claimed she was attacking him. Okay? She attacked him and she was trying to blackmail him. Really? And yeah, on the stand is this little girl with no arms testifying against you, but you were in danger? Really? The jury saw right through him and he was convicted of kidnap, rape, mutilation and attempted murder. Okay, so in California at that time, the maximum sentence that they could give someone for that was 14 years. She's going to have to live the rest of her life with that. Okay, the rest of her life. And she's lucky enough to be alive. And he gets 14 years, okay, which is a mistake. We all know it's a mistake. 14 years. He goes to jail. 1987. So he was in jail from 79 to 87, 9 years. And he got let off out on parole for good behavior. He's a menace to society. He's a cruel, brutal murderer of children. How did they let him out? But they did. After they let him out, nobody, I mean this story went worldwide and nobody would accept him. So he could find nowhere to live. He tried to go places and people kicked him out. The communities kicked him out. They did not want it. So he ended up living on the prison grounds at San Quentin in a trailer. Okay, that was the only place he could live. Then in February 1997, he got a lady of the night. Okay, now I know many people think you're not allowed to say they are the P word or sex workers, so we'll say lady of the night, but many people judge them. But now this girl had 3 children. Okay, she was doing the best they can. I do not for a minute believe that any mother with 3 children does this kind of work because that was her ambition from when she was 10 years old. I don't believe that, okay? And even if she does, she's a human being. She's a human being. We cannot judge her. It's a human being. Human life is important no matter who you are, unless you, Lawrence Singleton, you don't matter. But yeah, so he ended up renting her, and she went to his trailer. One of the neighbors in this trailer park on the St. Quentin property heard the screaming and called authorities. By the time the police arrived there, she was dead. He had stabbed her so many times. I don't even know how many times, but he brutally stabbed this girl to death because he just couldn't help himself. Okay, he just couldn't help himself. He was a violent man by nature. So he had literally been out. He had just been out, not even a year, and he's doing it again. So yes, so then he was arrested again. And once again, Mary's case came up, and Mary was again in court, and she was testifying again. And the jury saw that this case literally changed the law with the sentencing in California. So good for you, Mary. So yes, this time he got convicted of first-degree murder, and he got life sentence. But I also I have questions about this. Why, when somebody's on death row, why are you on death row? Is there such a long queue to this chair that you have to stand there for 10 years? I mean, in my mind, yes, I know they should have time to appeal and all that, but if somebody gets a death penalty, surely it can't take longer than a year. And then if there was evidence to prove they were innocent or whatever, that it would have been there. But yeah, anyway, so he was on death row until 2001, where he eventually died natural causes. So he died of cancer. So yeah, I hope he had a really horrible time in prison, and I hope that he's now in hell with the devil, and was doing everything to him that he did to all these girls all these years. Because I don't believe that it was only those two. I don't think Mary and Roxanne were the only ones, because it was in his nature. If it took him literally less than a year to get out of prison and do it again, and I mean the day he picked Mary up, he knew what he wanted. That's why he didn't want to pick the other two up. He knew what he was going to do, so yes. But the good thing of the story, this is why I tell these stories, because there's a good ending. The moral of the story is good. What matters is Mary Vincent. Mary Vincent, a girl, a 15-year-old girl who against all odds wanted to live. She wanted to live. I don't know where she got the strength from. It's almost impossible to think that she managed to get out of that the horrible night of these brutal crimes, and then to get both her arms cut off. And then she's a hero. She's a hero and an absolute queen. If I'm ever in trouble, I would want her to give me advice on how to get out of it, because she's an amazing person. She's absolutely amazing. She's a beacon of hope. She's been going around advocating for victims, turning victims into survivors. This is my biggest motto in life, is that if you are alive and you can tell your story, you're not a victim, you're a survivor. Drop the victim mentality and become a survivor, because they want you to be a victim. Okay? People in prison have a victim count, but they don't have survivor counts. You are one of the survivors, and so yes, so it's just kind of makes you realize how many times are we so ungrateful, and we think, my life sucks so bad, I can't even go out and have McDonald's, I've got to eat dry rice tonight. Mary would have loved to be home and eat rice that night, okay? Instead of enduring what she had to endure. And this man thought he could destroy this little girl, and she outsmarted him, and she lived. He spent his life in jail. She lived, and look at her. What a queen, what an absolute queen. But people, take care of your children. Always be grateful for what you have. Be grateful. And don't hitchhike. Do not hitchhike.
Okay, let's go.